It's Utah Jazz. Hey, the Jazz won a game last night.
Oh, my God.
Are you kidding me? 125-112. Jordan Clarkson has a big performance for the Jazz last night with 33 points. Shot it well from three. But there was one thing that I think certainly JC and the rest of the Jazz did that I thought really made a big difference in this game. They played with pace. And one of the things I think that we have seen during this stretch of games where the Jazz have lost is they've lost these games by like a bucket or two, a possession or two. And a lot of the times I've been talking on the show about how I feel like the Jazz are playing slow basketball. And it's been interesting to see them walk the ball up. It's been interesting to see them not trigger their offense until very, very deep into the shot clock with 10 seconds to go. Now we're making a pass to get the offense started. It's been really interesting to see that. And I think it's been a big part of why they have failed to consistently score when a bucket was needed. Last night, I think we saw a different philosophy. I think we saw Colin Sexton getting after it, getting up the floor. I think we saw them triggering the offense, at 18, 17, 16 seconds left on the shot clock, which is a huge difference. I loved what I saw, Jake, and I think that pace is critical to their success.
Absolutely, and I think your point is even more well taken when you have Mike Conley not playing basketball. Like, you can get away with trying to play half court basketball when you've got a veteran point guard to initiate you on time. But when you don't have that, you do need to play with pace, and you do need to use your speed to your advantage. And I think, the Utah Jazz are a team that, had a lot of success early in the season playing fast, and they got away from that a bit. They played a lot of slow basketball. They tried to beat you in the half court, and that didn't really work out too much. And I also think that when they play fast, they are able to build momentum pretty quickly, especially when you're playing at home. And I think that the Utah Jazz are a team that needs to utilize pace every single night, because when they do that, it's much harder to stop them. And I think obviously inside of any NBA basketball game, you're going to have, sections or portions of the game where it's a slower pace. That's just how the game works. But when it's fast-paced and you can be intentional about trying to get the ball up the floor and as you said, getting into the offense earlier in the shot clock, that's going to help you because you're not in a rush. You're not trapped by the shot clock. You're not allowing the defense to force you into a bad shot because you waited till 13 seconds or 12 seconds to get into your offense because you took forever to walk it up the floor. So, yeah, I mean, they definitely played with pace last night. I also liked how they shot it from three. We always give you that benchmark number, 40%. I think they were 43% last night. Like, they had some nice numbers.
14 of 32, 43.8%.
Yeah, so I mean, you shot it well last night, and you handled business, and I think this word that, again, I feel like I say this almost every day, like consistency for the Jazz is what they're struggling with, and you almost expect that out of a young team. You almost expect like, hey, yeah, they're going to go through a 5-game stretch where they play slow basketball, and it's just how it's going to be, and then they're going to snap out of it one game against the Clippers. And now we're right back on the right track. So what does the next game look like? That's kind of how it goes for this team.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting when you look at the different dynamics at play right now. Obviously, I know you've talked a lot about Mike Conley and the importance of him to this offense. But I also think this is a really important growth spurt for Colin Sexton. And I think you're starting to see him play much, much more in the way that Will Hardy wanted him to play. And I think that's a really important thing for the Utah Jazz, because I think as this roster comes together and you start to understand who's going to be here and who's not and who's important to this team, I think when you look at a guy like Colin Sexton, I think he's actually very important to this team. He's a young point guard. He can get up and down the floor. I was really impressed. You talked about shooting threes last night. His shot selection was actually much better. Colin Sexton last night, 31 minutes, only takes 2 3-pointers, makes one of them, but he gives them 21 points off the bench. And more to that, I thought that the 6 dimes and the 6 boards were just as important as any of the points he scored.
Facts.
So I feel like you're seeing a more mature version. Now, I don't love the turnovers because Colin Sexton still has a habit of just creating stupid situations that lead to turnovers. There's just no reason for that. But he's a young guy that's carrying a lot of responsibility for a basketball team. Maybe for the first time in his basketball mind, he understands the gravity of his performance to this team. Because let's be honest, if Colin Sexton does not play well, the Utah Jazz are probably not winning games. If he has a really bad night, they're probably not going to win games, especially with Mike Conley out of the lineup. So I thought that was really important. But the pace of play thing, man, I think it matters because it allows guys like Jordan Clarkson to play that free, frenetic style of basketball that he really thrives in. And I think that's why Jordan Clarkson has a big game last night. Now, to your point, I don't think it hurts at all that Jordan Clarkson is 5 of 9 from 3 last night. I think very clearly that helps.
And a lot of those were in transition, too. Like, Jordan had one of those games where, they were getting up the floor, and a lot of those were just, like, top of the key or just off the top of the key threes in transition, and it was going in. And I think that...
What? Go ahead.
Good morning. Wow, that was, man. How is this? Go ahead, please. Excellent. Pretty good, huh?
That's good.
Yeah.
Not as good as a 4X Gold that James Knight owes us, but whatever.
Well, and he's already in the chat, but that's
Is
fine.
he really?
Yeah, he is right there.
Okay, there he is. Good morning, James. Salty drunk. Does this mean Will Hardy can coach again? Nah, he sucks.
Nah, he's terrible. They should fire him. They should.
Some shit happened.
Good to see you, James. But anyway, my point is I think it allows them to play that free-flowing, frenetic style. I think right now, based on the way that this team is constructed, I think that's where they're going to thrive.
Well, and by the way, it should also be said when 2 of the best two-way players in the NBA are not playing last night for the Clippers.
Nah, but don't do that.
You should play with pace.
Nah, don't do that.
But I'm not handicapping.
Nah, because you're opening the door. You're opening the door, man.
Dude, wait. I'm not handicapping the win.
Don't do it.
What I was gonna say is that when those guys aren't playing, you should take advantage of that. You should get out and run. You should try to penetrate the paint. You should try to play with pace. Why are you hating, dude?
It's a weak-ass take.
It's not. It is not. It's not a weak-ass take. It's the reality of the situation.
Were you deep into the Twitterverse last night?
No.
Because I saw this a lot on Twitter. Well, the only reason they won the game, is because they won the game.
I'm not saying that. I am not saying that. Right? Like, I didn't just say that, did I?
That's what I heard.
Well, you heard wrong.
Well, no, I should rephrase. That's what I chose to hear.
Yeah.
I don't think you're saying that specifically, but I always hate that. That's like a pet peeve of mine.
Yeah, I hate it too.
When people are like, oh, wow, if your mom had played last night, well,
dude, they won the game because they made more shots. They played with pace. And I think, again, any team in the league, like I don't care what team you want to use, if their best players aren't playing, you need to take advantage of that. It is literally like attrition in the NBA, off nights for stars or guys being hurt or whatever.
Yep.
Like, that's part of the game. So if I'm Will Hardy looking at this game last night before tip-off, I'm saying, yeah, hey, by the way, this is a big opportunity for us. They're down Paul George and Kawhi, not our problem. That's an opportunity. We should get out and run. We should push the pace. Like,
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with Gage Carter, too. He says, fire Ainge and Hardy, cut JC, Conley, and Laurie.
Hey, you start talking shit.
See, James Knight, see what you do? See what you do. By the way, real quick, we owe Mark Hale an apology. He says, crap, the opening of the can scared me. I had to turn around. I thought someone else had come into the kitchen. My bad. My bad. Jesse Harsh says, happy Thursday, boys. Hey, if the Jazz make the play-in tournament, would you consider that a successful year for Hardy? I would. Yeah, I actually would. I don't know what you think, Jake, but I think if you make the playoffs, I think if you can win between 35 and 40 games, successful season. I don't care if you make the tournament or not.
Yeah.
I think if you make the playoffs, unequivocally, that's a successful year. I think I could argue that making the playoffs makes Will Hardy the coach of the year.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I mean, again, not to be repetitive, don't forget where the expectations were to start the year. Like, you can't forget that. It matters. The expectations were that this team was going to be a tanking team, a terrible team, a 20-win team, maybe if they were lucky. Like, that would have been a good year before, tip-off on opening night. So to me, I mean, if you were to find your way into the play-in, and let's just say,
oh man,
you were to find a way to win one game in the play-in, I mean, at that, you couldn't ask for much better than that. Honestly, like, I think that'd be a hell of a year.
And I agree. I think it's one of those things where when you look at what Will Hardy's brought to this bench, again, look at Nickeil Alexander-Walker last night, contributing valuable minutes, good production. Like, you're seeing Will Hardy's impact on these younger players. And I think what you're seeing is a significantly higher level of accountability than you have with Quinn Snyder. One of the things we told you is the locker room really resented the fact that there was zero accountability from the coaching staff to the players last year. That was a big narrative that we heard from a lot of different people. And I think one of the things that we've heard this year is there's a high level of accountability. Again, Colin Sexton and Will Hardy getting into that exchange on the bench a couple of weeks ago now has made a significant difference in what we're seeing from Colin Sexton on the floor, and I think that really matters. And I also think you're seeing that with Nickeil Alexander-Walker. We saw it the other night at the Bulls game where Will Hardy chewed out Nickeil Alexander-Walker for a really bad sequence. But did he take him out of the game and leave him on the end of the bench? He didn't. He kept him in the game, and he gave NAW a chance to feel good about himself, and that clearly, I think, paid dividends for Walker because you're seeing him contribute really important minutes for the Jazz now. And I think, when you look at the way Will Hardy's impacted this team, I think that's probably the most important impact he's made. Now, he hasn't been perfect, and we've talked a lot about the fact that I really don't like his rotations. I don't like a lot of lineup combinations that we're seeing from Will Hardy. But at the end of the day, he's learning this team as much as they're learning him. Will Hardy is learning on the job. That's why he got, a 5-year contract. And I don't have any problem with that. I don't think that Will Hardy's done a bad job. But I also think that Will Hardy's been part of the issue and why they're losing so many games of late. But last night, I thought he did a far better job of putting the right guys in the right place for this team to win the game. And I think we certainly saw that there was a more concerted effort to play with pace, to get the ball over the timeline, to get the offense started sooner so that you're not running into situations where THT's taking a wild three because you're 2 seconds on the shot clock. That's what's been hurting this team. And again, I think we'll have this conversation at the All-Star break, but are they a better team today than they were when the season started? I think they are. The injuries are really unfortunate. I think Mike Conley being hurt really kind of turned the light off on this team. And they're trying to have to, fight their way back to the top of their performance because they really miss Mike. But I think you're going to have to learn to live without Mike because as guys get older, and Mike Conley, again, is a guy that's always been hurt, you need Colin Sexton. You need Nickeil Alexander-Walker to step up and play significant minutes. You need a guy like Jordan Clarkson to step in and play heavy minutes and give you good production. You need Malik Beasley to keep shooting threes, right? Again, I think one of the most important contributions last night was Jared Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
I think Vando played some big minutes. That alley-oop, frankly, was a big deal because I thought it captured a lot of momentum. You look at Vando's numbers, only 25 minutes. That's a pretty good allotment of minutes, in my opinion, for a guy that's very limited offensively, right? But 7 of 10 from the floor, 0 of 1 from 3, 12 boards, 2 dimes, 2 steals. Those are big minutes to get
double-double.
14 points is a big deal. I also look at Walker Kessler last night, 22 minutes, 2 of 3 from the floor, 4 rebounds, but 4 block shots.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. And what is he also, I think one of the important guys to look at is Walker Kessler, because what are we seeing in development from him? Fewer turnovers now. And this is in a very short amount of time. Now, he's still going to bring the ball down. We talked about this with Azubuike the other day.
Yeah.
One of the major problems that big guys have in this league is they want to bring the ball below their shoulders, and it eliminates their height advantage. Well, I think we've seen that with Walker quite a bit where he's brought the ball down, and it's been turnover city.
Yeah.
We're starting to see him now play with those elbows out and that ball high in the air, which helps him protect it. I don't know, Jake. Hello.
Hello.
I think we've seen a lot of development early on in this season from this team.
Yeah, I think, I agree with what you're saying there. Several of those points. And I think, interesting just tidbit from last night that I noticed was, you have Nickeil Alexander-Walker last night coming off the bench before THT, which is definitely a switch, right? THT had been coming off the bench before Alexander-Walker up until this point. And I think it's really interesting the level of effort that Will Hardy's putting into NAW, because I think he can be a serviceable NBA player, but this is what it's going to take. You're going to have to give him those minutes. You're going to have to watch him turn it over and take bad shots.
But I also think THT is a matchup player.
True. Yeah.
He has to be. He works against the Bulls because the Bulls aren't physical.
Right.
He doesn't work against the Clippers necessarily.
Because they're a physical-ass team.
But I also think NAW needs minutes against teams where you're trying to play at pace. Not that THT plays slow, because I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
But when you're trying to play at a higher pace and you're trying to shoot more threes, I think if you can get NAW to give you a really good 15 minutes, and Talon Horton Tucker is a DNP last night, I have no problem with that.
Well, and you think about NAW's path in the NBA so far. Remember where this guy came from. He came from New Orleans. Well, we know before this incarnation of the New Orleans Pelicans existed, what were they? Well, they were a young team that was playing with a lot of pace. They were just a get up and down, see what we can create kind of team. So when they made that trade, when Zanuck, picked him up, like you think about a guy in NAW who now has had a coaching change, didn't really play at all under Quinn, now is getting some run here under Will, and I think it's taken advantage of it. I mean, obviously not perfect, not grade A, but I don't think he's played horrible, and I like his energy. I also like his frame. He is a long, lanky guy out there on the floor, and if he ever figures out how to play really good defense, he's going to get his 15, 20-minute-a-night run every single night.
Well, and he's only 24 years old, and he just turned 24 years old in the fall. So I like it a lot. I like a lot of what we've seen. So, yeah, I'd absolutely I think if you're a Jazz fan this morning, you got to feel good. Kanai Johnson says, top of the morning, fellas. What's up, my guy? Says, it felt good to see the Jazz have fun. Good win. It did feel good. This was a game you enjoyed watching. You did enjoy watching the Bulls game because you never felt like they were going to win that game, especially in the second half, right? But against the Clippers, you felt like they were in control of the game. Even when the Clippers made that run and the lead goes away, you're like, well, yeah, but this was stupidity or mistakes, or you felt like the Jazz were in position to win that game. Now, Colton Bitton rolls in here and I think makes the point of the morning so far. 51 points in 3 quarters.
How much oil did you use last night?
Oh, man. Dude, my forearm is tired.
Was it?
Oh, my forearm is tired.
Dude.
Edgar Garcia says, morning, players. What's up? Cody Strickland, good morning to you. Good morning, men. Baby almost here. Set a date for December 28th. Another Monty fan being born. Much needed win last night.
Let's go.
I wish you and the Mrs. Strickland very well. Jesse Harsh says, Booker doing his best Kobe impression last night. I'm telling you.
For real, though, dude.
But I'm telling you, Devin Booker and Jason Tatum are pulling away. For real, though, bro. Like, those two guys are pulling away. You look at the way JT played last night. Hey, good game. You look at the way Devin Booker played for 3 quarters last night.
He's an assassin.
I think that is arguably the best quarter I have ever seen Devin Booker play in the third. He shot 20 of 25 for the night. That's 80%. That was a historically good performance out of Devin Booker last night. But what would you give to have that skill set, the Tatum skill set, the Donnie skill set on this roster right now? This would be a 50-win team with a superstar like that.
I want it.
Because I think, listen, as limited as some of these guys are, as limited as a Vando or an Olynyk are, as limited as I think Malik Beasley is, they all do certain things really well. Like Beasley shoots 40% from 3. Olynyk's a banger. He gets under your skin, right? Vando's a guy that can defend and rebound for you. If you surround a guy like Devin Booker, Jason Tatum, Donovan Mitchell, you surround them with those guys, you're going to win a lot of games. You're going to win a lot of games because you already defend pretty well. Mm-hmm. And now if you bring up THT and if you bring up Nickeil Alexander-Walker and you put all this together in a melting pot and you spit out a 50-win team. And man, if you did not enjoy Devin Booker last night, you're just not a basketball fan. You're not.
Yeah.
San Diego State says booking 51 points in 3 quarters makes this a good sun-shining morning indeed.
So see what he did there.
Sun-shining morning.
Sun's basketball, but sun shining and it's morning. Like it kind of all works together.
I'm telling you, man. That's my dude. And it feels good because Book has had some really mediocre moments over the last... Since the finals, he's had some Because let's be honest, he was not good in the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
And it's not like he tore up the Olympic tournament. He's had some really mediocre moments. This was not one of them. And this year, well, hell, he scored 49 against the Jazz.
Yeah, I mean, he's having a hell of a season. There's no way around it.
I'm telling you.
You know, in the vaunted pre-show meeting behind the scenes, I said, and I'm happy to say it again, the guy doesn't have anything left to prove outside of winning a championship. Like, everyone knows what he's capable of. He's going to have his good seasons. He's going to have his average seasons. He needs to win something now.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. The guy is a stud. Troy Cushing, good morning to you. How the heck are you, my friend? San Diego State says the Suns handicapped themselves last night. Booker with 51 and only 3/4 on 80% shooting. Crack open another can. Go for that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, 3/4, he shot 80% and had 51 points. It's one of the best performances in recent memory. Honest to God. Honest to God. Ron Nolan says, I'm gassing up. Vegas time. Go Utes.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go. Get in the car, baby.
Yeah, we'll have a full preview of Utes and USC tomorrow on the show for you. Salty Drunk says, I believe Quinn Snyder, coach of the Jazz, didn't get out and run enough. How many times did we see Don just walking the ball up and playing slow? Yeah. And I think that's why that era, and you're going to hate me saying this, Salty Drunk, but the Joe Ingles, Rudy Gobert, walking up the floor.
Bogey.
You know, like that's not going to get the job done. Yeah, Bogey for sure. Right? That's just not going to get the job done at all. Let's see. Boritin Design says, I think NAW is a good defender, similar to Wiggins' kind of defense. I think he can make it difficult for some fast guards. Yeah. Which is why I think you saw him play and THT not play.
Yeah.
Which, again, I think it's a great point by you.
Compete. Like, I think I love that aspect of how Will Hardy's handling this. Like, I think on a lot of NBA teams, especially young ones, you just play the same way every single night, no matter what the matchup is. You're just going to, there's 8 minutes left in the first. Hey, THT, put your shoes on, bud. Time to go in the game, right? And that's not what Will Hardy's doing. Like,
no.
There are obviously some, there's some structure around rotations and when guys are going to come in, but I think he's allowing these guys to compete. And I think when you do that to guys, you get their best. And that's what it should be every single night.
It's funny. Marcus is DMing me on Twitter, which I don't know why you're...
DM's vanishing mode.
I don't know. By the way, if another person... Yesterday, and honestly, my DMs are open on Twitter.
Right.
Okay, so anybody can DM me.
Right.
So I don't know why you don't use Twitter to DM me. The people who use vanishing mode, you're sending me messages I cannot read.
Vanishing mode turns on in 3 seconds.
Yeah, people are not smart. People are not smart. Salty Drunk says, Book looks like CP3 from the elbow now. He has a smoking mid-range game.
Yeah.
I think Kevin Durant, excuse me, I think Kevin Durant is the best mid-range player in the world.
Yeah.
But I think that this league is a mid-range league now. You look at Donovan Mitchell, who, again...
Yeah. Dude,
he's an MVP candidate.
Yep.
He's averaging 30 points a game.
Yep.
I think Donovan Mitchell's, the big change he's made is now he's effective and he doesn't turn the ball over in the mid-range. You look at Devin Booker the last 3 years since CP3 got there, he's had that free throw line extended. He's got the baseline. He very seriously has picked up Kobe moves. He's got that turnaround fadeaway now that really legitimized Kobe as the best player of his generation. I'm telling you, Devin Booker's a killer.
Yeah, I think all the best teams have that mid-range killer.
You have to.
And I think,
you have
honestly, I think the only reason Kevin Durant is the best mid-range player in the league and potentially the best mid-range player the league's ever seen is because of his size, which you can't teach, right? You can't teach 6'10" with that handle. You can't with that touch.
No, you can't.
So if you're Devin Booker, if you're Donovan Mitchell, if you're Jason Tatum, you're balling. You're doing the absolute best you can do, and I almost feel like it's unfair to compare these guys to Kevin Durant because Kevin has something that you can't teach, and that's okay. And I think Devin Booker has caught a lot of flack. I know there are some people on this show who hate on Book constantly, and I think the guy,
which is fine,
yeah, it's fine. But I'm here to tell you that if he wins a championship in Phoenix, that will be a huge deal. Huge deal.
Oh my God. I mean, I can't even. I can't even. I can't even.
Yeah.
I don't even know what you. I don't even know if he wins the championship in Phoenix. Forget it.